Hi.
What's up, guys?
We're back.
We are.
The last 3 songs you heard on The Unknown Show on Bayside.
Wait, what? That was out of order. I think just switch those. Okay.
Boston and Colorado.
Yes, yeah, I'm Colorado.
I'm Boston, just to clarify.
Sorry, they weren't really picking up what I was putting down.
It's like a puzzle. You have to put it together.
You just have to see what I'm dishing out, you know? I don't know why I keep saying
Keep
these
up.
weird, like disc jockey phrases from the 90s. It's at least the third one I've said today.
It's the spirit of finals. They're just kind of discombobulating everything.
Honestly.
Nice vocab word.
But yeah, the last 3 songs you heard were Physical by the Aces, Sweet Jane by Garrett Cato, or Cato? Cato. And then Don't Cry, 2020 by Coin.
Comma.
I
like that.
I regretted saying it, but it worked out. So yeah, those were those, and they all came out fairly recently. So check them out.
So this segment, we're going to be talking about something very exciting that was just recently released. It's the Defenders trailer for Marvel's, obviously, Marvel's Defenders show, which is going to be coming out on Netflix. It's been long awaited. I'm sure people have heard of Daredevil, which has been released for 2 seasons, Jessica Jones, which has 1 season, Luke Cage has 1 season, and then the most recent one is Iron Fist, which is a great show. So all of these seasons have been released to kind of prepare for the Defenders. They were never meant to be kind of standalone shows. The first season of Daredevil was released just to see how it would do, and Daredevil absolutely blew up. Everyone loved it. So, I mean, each show has something that's very different about it. All the characters are very different. You'll see some characters that are in a season of Daredevil who make an appearance in Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. One character in particular that kind of makes an appearance in each one, kind of ties it all together, is Rosario Dawson, who has been in a bunch of other stuff, but she plays Claire Temple, who is, in the comics anyways, a character called the Night Nurse.
Ooh.
So she hasn't made an appearance as her night nurse persona, but she kind of is the key link between these 4 kind of outcasts who don't really fit in but just want to do good. So the Defenders trailer has been kind of in the making for quite some time. They released some footage of the 4 main characters in an elevator together a few months ago, but this trailer is kind of the big first step into the series, and the show is supposed to be released on Netflix in the whole season's entirety on August 18th, and depending on how well this season goes, it will probably tell us if they're going to do a second season, a season after that for the Defenders, or if they're just going to choose to kind of keep these superhero shows as individual seasons. So I think they're kind of not entirely sure where it's going to go. All the Marvel shows for Netflix aren't really connected to kind of the mainstream, like, big box movies they make. I mean, the most they reference it is the New York battle from the first Avengers movie, and they call it The Incident. So they never actually use any specific names or anything like that, so they're not really connected, but it's a very different look at kind of what kind of superhero-like is. None of them are very superhero-esque. It's about normal people who are forced into these situations and have to react and respond accordingly, and these people happen to do it in a way that makes them kind of motivated to help people, but they have flaws. So, I mean, I think it's a great kind of look at comics in general, and kind of a different take on movies and television shows right now anyways.
So they, because they all have their own, like, individual shows going on now, will this, like, be in replacement of those shows, like, this season? Is it just going to be this season, or are they also doing new seasons for their own shows.
Well, because it's Netflix, they release the seasons like all at once.
Right, but are like they gonna do?
I think they're trying to see like how well Defenders does.
Okay.
Because Daredevil, I think the first one came out 2 years ago, and then
Right.
Jessica Jones and the second Daredevil came out together, and then Luke Cage came out after that, and Iron Fist came out. So they all came out around generally the same time, without being connected entirely.
Gotcha.
So this Defenders one is kind of that lull between the other seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll probably see how well this one does. I'm sure they have other seasons already prepared for the other shows in the
Right.
event that the Defenders doesn't go well. But I'm not entirely sure if they're going to stay connected.
Gotcha. And like, is it? Wait, how do I word this? Like, for this show, like, how do they meet up and like become a group? Like, do we know, or is that like part of the first series?
Well, they're kind of hinted at in each different series, I guess.
Okay.
So I think the first and second seasons of each show is kind of like to set up the different characters that you see, because they all have very complex backgrounds, but they all happen to take place in New York City.
Okay.
So there's Daredevil, who's a lawyer who's actually blind, but he's able to use kind of his sixth senses, if you will, to help people. And then there's Jessica Jones, who tried being a superhero and something went terribly wrong, and now she's very cynical and flawed, but she's a private investigator that still works to help people without putting herself out there too much.
Okay.
Then
What a
there's
relatable character.
right?
You're like, whoa.
And then there's Luke Cage, who was wrongly imprisoned, and when he got out, he moved to Harlem to kind of help people, and he ends up doing it, but getting caught in the crossfires with people he should not be caught up with. And then there's Iron Fist, which is the most recent one, which is Danny Rand, who is a billionaire who went missing when he and his parents their plane disappeared in the Himalayas, and he comes back, and his whole season is about convincing people that he is who he says he is. And he kind of has adopted these kind of mystical gifts, if you will.
Ooh.
So it's very interesting. They're all from different backgrounds. I mean, Daredevil takes place in Hell's Kitchen in New York. He's obviously not the most wealthy person because he is a lawyer, but he's struggling. And then there's Jessica Jones, who's in Manhattan. Then there's Luke Cage, which takes place in Harlem. And then Iron Fist takes place all over New York, but it's mainly concentrated in the Upper East Side and Wall Street. So it's different sections of the city.
Oh shit. Got it. That makes sense though that they did like that whole independent television show thing first. It's kind of like Netflix's like spin on, like with the Avengers and stuff. How it's like all of the separate ones, or most of them, have their own like separate movies, and then you see them come together and like certain backstory things, and then it's the same thing with this, just with the TV series. And so I could see what they might do is that like they release this season of the Defenders, and then they go and release like a season of one of the independent ones, so that like you learn more about certain backstory things about the individual characters, because like I know with like the movie franchise they do that with the Avengers, where it's like, okay, you learn things gradually. It's not like learning everything about everyone and then they all like come together. So that's an interesting premise.
I think Marvel set it up pretty well with Netflix, because there's things you can do with TV shows that you can't do with movies. Like the TV shows, that you can kind of develop the side characters in a way that you're not really able to with the movies, especially when you have, say, like a $2 billion budget to make this film, and you can't really focus on everything that you want to. I mean, it's a little disappointing, but with TV shows, you can kind of take an episode to talk about that side character that doesn't get too much attention. Like with Iron Fist in general, I think there's certain shows that just do things very, very well. And with one character in particular in Iron Fist is Ward Meacham, and you go from absolutely despising his character, there's no way anyone could like him at all in the beginning, and then at the end of the season you suddenly realize that all you want to do is protect this character, and you just absolutely adore him. So it's kind of unique in a way that they can kind of flip your perspective on a character without you even realizing it, because the show flows so smoothly. So, I mean, I definitely check the original movies, or not original movies, original TV shows that are on Netflix for the individual characters before watching The Defenders, but it's my understanding that you can watch it alone, though you have some time before August 18th if you want to fill your summer after finals with something. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, check that out. In the meantime, we'll play more music. There was like a gap between me moving my hands. Goodbye.